I can't remember what the guy's name
Oh,
was.
here we go. Good morning, my lovey. I am here today with Leslie Lindsay Davis, my friend, best-selling author, and all-around excellent entrepreneur. I, of course, am Melissa Trumbull, your joy visionary. Today, we are going to chat up the whole sitch of judging other people. So if you find yourself judging other people to the point that, it's kind of giving you a grim satisfaction, and that's the endorphin box that it's checking, well, why? Why is it wrong for someone else to behave the way they are or to, spend money in a sort of a way? Well, it's because we put together our subconscious blueprint for how to live a life based on how we grew up. And so if you grew up with stressful attitudes, for instance, around money or around, how people behave in public or, whatever the habit is, then you're telling yourself when you criticize and judge others that that's not for you. So if you're saying, like, how can they blow all that money? You're telling yourself, nope, you're not going to have all that money to blow. So let's break it down so we can get rid of that habit and stop putting obstacles in our paths. What do you think, Leslie?
Well, to me, the thought that comes into my mind is why aren't we questioning those thoughts that we have coming into our mind? And for me, when I listened to the questions that you were asking, I was like, those are ludicrous questions. Why would you not be happy if somebody has money to spend? Why wouldn't you be happy if somebody, achieves some level of success in their life? But you know what? The problem with my thought process just then was that it was based on logic.
Right.
And our belief system is
Yeah.
not based on logic. It's based on repetition and generationally accepted things. Also, it's based on societally accepted things. It has
Right.
nothing to do with logic. So when I take a breath and I pause and I say, of course, I would feel that way, then I can say, I'm just curious, where is that thought, that feeling, that belief, that joy sucking whatever really coming from? And am I prepared to stand against all of the pillars and foundations of my thought process, my belief system? Because to me, that's where the hard work begins.
Right.
We go against that so ingrained belief system. I mean, what about you?
Well, I want to break down some of the high level stuff that you're talking about. So when we talk about if you have these pillars, these are the tenets, the ethos, the basis of how you see the world that you developed as a kid. And as I've often said, it's so tragic that we put everything together. We've got our lizard brain that just wants to keep us alive. So lizard brain is like, everything you did yesterday, mwah, chef's kiss. Do that. Don't change a thing. And then you've got your blueprint for living, your subconscious that you put together based on stuff you didn't understand, stuff that was emotionally charged, and with your egocentric little kid view. And so when you're an adult, unless you've done the work to unravel that and to replace it with beliefs that you find true and accurate, and this is how you want to live, well, then you're reacting to stuff based on how your parents raised you, based on what you experienced and perceived as a kid from society, from other elders, from other children. And that's just not the right thing because it's not always true. We can believe things that have been passed on for generation to generation to generation, or we can investigate that. And I love that you brought up curiosity, Leslie. Like, oh, well, that's interesting. Why do I think that I was raised in the deep South by a mother from the deep South and a dad from the deep South? And so my attitude, like, let's talk about money. It was that women don't make money. Women have security and financial freedom based on marrying someone who makes that money. And women are in, doing volunteer work and supporting the community and raising children. And when you break that down, it seems pretty ludicrous because that sounds like someone raised in 1880. But honestly, that's how I was raised. And I had a lot of work to do before I could become successful and to have money and use it as a tool, as opposed to, feeling like I needed to use it to help my husband in their, ex-husbands in their businesses, or, that like it wasn't for me, it was for the marriage. And that's why I have ZFG Living now, because after the second divorce, when I recognized that I was the creator of all the chaos, I was just like, well, why don't I have my business? Like, what the heck? I obviously can do this and well. So, hi. And that's humbling, and it's tough to recognize. And typically, when we have to face something that we're doing to ourselves, it doesn't feel good. And so our mind will try to protect us from that painful realization that we are the architect of our own dismay, destruction, obstacles. And that, but that's part of what this is. Because wouldn't you rather be humbled for a moment and then get those obstacles out of the way so that you can enjoy life in the way you deserve? Like, gorgeous stuff. And this deserve, a word I still have a frisson of fear every time I say it, because I was raised, deserve has nothing to do with it. That is a title of a chapter in my book, actually.
Well, the other thought that came to my mind as you were speaking was, when we start pushing against norms and beliefs and things like that, it can create internal tension. And if we are not doing the work of understanding that we are in control, we are masters of our own ship, we are masters of our own destiny, and that, okay, the easiest way for me to sum it up is what I call a grandma's pot roast moment.
Okay.
Envision this. A little girl, her grandmother, her mother, her aunts are all in the kitchen, and they're fixing, Sunday dinner. And the little girl says to Grandma, Mom says that your pot roast is the best. And Grandma says, well, thank you so much. And Mom says that the secret is that you have to cut the pot roast in half. And Grandma looks at her very puzzled and confused. What are you talking about? Yeah, Mom says you have to cut it in half so that all the seasoning gets over all of the pot roast, and then you can cook it. And Grandma looks at the little girl and she says, the only reason I cut the pot roast in half is it didn't fit in the pot.
I love this story.
So how many times are we doing things? Are we repeating things? Are we taking action based on Grandma's pot roast without having a deep understanding of why in the heck she cut the pot roast in half in the first place?
Right.
Different groups that I've been part of, when I'm, coming into a committee or something like that, somebody will say, we always, or we never. And for me, those are red flag words.
Yeah.
And I will immediately ask, is this the truth, or is this a grandma's pot roast moment?
Right. Like, this is how it's done. It reminds me of a Game of Thrones. It is known. It is like, what? What does that even mean? Like,
yeah. There be dragons. There be dragons.
And I love bringing that very concrete example up. So when you extrapolate that and put it towards, okay, this is how you behave in a relationship. This is how women should respond to aggressive behavior. This is how men should exist in the world. We are picking up all of these cues and little recipes of how to be in the world when we're little, and it doesn't translate. That's an excellent allegory, the grandma's pot roast, because if we don't know why, and guess what? If they don't know why, how can they explain to us why? Are they even, and if they're even alive?
Yeah. And so many times when we start questioning the why, we get pushback.
Right.
Because then they have to question their why, or their reason for accepting this as a hard and fast rule. Now, to me, there are really and truly only three hard and fast rules in this world. One is the sun is going to come up in the east because of the Earth's rotation. The sun's going to go down in the west, again, because of the Earth's rotation, and gravity. Those are really the only hard and fast rules that we've got, right?
Well, there's some others, but
Well,
I get your point.
so if we are unable to observe someone else enjoying their life, enjoying the fruits of their labor, enjoying, the richness of whatever the heck it is that they have, I think that it's time for us to question what limiting belief do we have that is causing us to not be able to simply say, I'm so happy for you, or of course you're enjoying yourself, or
Yeah,
to just simply observe with no reaction whatsoever.
exactly.
What is it that's stopping us? And why? Why?
And additionally to that, I would add when we have a reaction or we perceive something as good or bad or the right thing or the wrong response or whatever, that's based on our attitudes toward it. So
Exactly.
I like to use the example of getting cut off in traffic. Like they're not deliberately trying to impinge on your day. They're just trying to get to their day. They're just trying to squeeze their car through to get 2 car lengths ahead so that they can make up for whatever lost time, or maybe they're on their way to the hospital. There's an emergency, or you know what I'm saying? They have a big interview and there was an accident. Like we just don't know. And so if we can release the value judgment and be like, oh, wow, in a hurry, go get him, tiger. It's like, okay, it doesn't have to put any kind of spin on your day.
No.
Because I know that I have probably driven like a moron myself just because a car was in my blind spot or I didn't see something or whatever, and it had there was no intent. I would like to consider myself a safe driver, and I don't mean to cause anyone stress. Believe me, I'm sensitive to stress. I wouldn't want to cause it, and yet I'm sure there have been times that I annoyed the heck out of somebody because, like I said, I didn't see them or, they were merging into a lane that I was merging into or, stuff like that. And so if we can release the backstory that we're telling ourselves of why people are doing what they're doing and come up with a benign story, oh, wow, I wonder if they're on their way to the hospital. Eesh, go with God. Why not? It's free. It costs nothing. And it allows you to not have that grim satisfaction of saying that someone's doing something because they're an idiot or they're obviously aggressive or there's some character flaw that's making them do that. It's just like, oh, look at that. Interesting. Let it go.
And the other thing that I tell myself, or I tell my husband, you're not going backwards. When somebody cuts you off, you're still moving forward. You're not going backwards.
Right.
So I like that you can tell yourself a benign story. But again, our reaction to being cut off in traffic is something that we learn from observing other people
Right.
driving us around.
Yep.
So do we have to continue that road rage, that anger? Can we simply release it, as you said? And I think it's an excellent, excellent term. Create a benign story. Simply observe. But that same observation is true in almost any incident that we have in our life. Let's say you have a coworker who gets a promotion. It may or may not have been a promotion that you wanted, but simply observe. Oh, they got the promotion.
Right. And maybe
you don't need to be happy for them. You don't need to be sad for them. You don't need to be anything for them. Simply observe. And when we simply observe, we are maintaining control. We are remaining in charge of ourselves. And we're not giving away our energy to something that we have no control over.
I love that. And I would like to, I know we're at our 15-minute goal, but let me just take that one step further. So let's say they get the promotion and you kind of did want that promotion and you're annoyed and upset because it didn't go to you. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, they're such a brown noser. They're just always, well, hang on a second. Let's reframe that. They're such a networker and they strengthen their ties to management because they are using that wonderful rule of have the 5 closest people to you define your character. You want to be close to people who are where you want to go, who are ahead of you on your journey. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is a strategy, yes. Would they be buddy-buddy if they just met at the park, taking their kids to the zoo or what have you? Like maybe not, but they do work together. And there is something to learn from those who are in a level above you. And people like to mentor and people like to be around those that appreciate them. And if you think that you have a good poker face and your supervisor or, people at work don't understand that you hold them in contempt, that's not true. We have instincts for that very reason. So I would say just be curious about why that happened. And, go ask, what are some things that I can do to move forward? Is there some training? Maybe they had some certification that you didn't even know about. And, they needed to be Sigma 6 or whatever the heck it's called.
Six Sigma.
Whatever.
A black belt. They needed to be a black belt in 6 Sigma.
There you go. Right. Perfect. But any hoosers, so let's wrap it up and just remind yourself when you're feeling judgy and you've got that purse-lipped, grim little jolt of endorphins that doesn't have to be like that. It can just be like, oh, good for you. Oh, all right, interesting. Wow, I'm really triggered by that. Curious. Let me think about why. What's the story I'm telling myself? Is it true? Because no matter what your mom told you, every thought and every emotion you feel is not necessarily accurate and the truth.
But it is still your emotion and your feeling. And
that's fine.
Observe it.
Exactly. Right. Be curious about it. Mm-hmm. Is this person triggering you because they're reminding you of your, the aunt that criticized you for all of those summers that you went to stay with grandma? Or like, there's always some weird reasons. And if you think that oh no, that's when I was a kid, just get curious about that and open yourself to the possibility that your reactions to some situations may not be based in logic. So have a fabulous day. Enjoy your cuppa. Cheers, Levy.